of talk. What's up, Dan? Good to see you, buddy. We're just going to get in here and talk a little NFC North. We didn't get a chance to do it this week, man. The week kind of got away from me, but again, this is just going to be a very casual conversation. So what I thought we would do, let's jump into the NFC North matchups, and let's do it through the PFF preview, kind of how we do the Packers every week. And let's start here with the Steelers at the Bears. And I'm going to try to listen again. There's going to be a little bit of dead air. I'm going to try to focus on the chat a little bit more tonight and include everybody. So hopefully we don't put anything on the screen that gets me canceled. So don't you knuckleheads try anything weird, all right? But before we get into everything, if y'all would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future, and let's just talk a little ball. So we got the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to the Windy City to face the Chicago Bears. Steelers come in at 6-4, right? They're 5-5 against the spread. The Bears are 7-3, 8-4 against the spread, or I'm sorry, 6-4 against the spread. Y'all like that math ain't mathing, Clayton. So this matchup, man, I think this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. You know, it's really a test for the Bears. You know, the big knock on the Bears is they haven't really played anybody tough, right? They played, I think, if I remember correctly, all of their wins have come against teams below 500 this season. And you know, listen, I try not to dunk on that stat too much, because you can only play the schedule that's in front of you. And the Bears just continue to find a way to win ball games, you know, as much as we like to make fun of the Chicago fan base in here. And we'll probably have some Bears fans hop in. If so, welcome in. We'll try to keep it civil in here this evening. But let's see what the chat says before we dive into all the numbers. I see everybody kind of talking about it. Give me your take on this Pittsburgh Steelers at the Bears matchup. Deadfish says, hoping Aaron can win maybe his last game against the Bears. It's a great point. You know, and it's weird, Deadfish, because I thought for sure this would be Aaron's last year, you know. But then as the season started off and the Steelers kind of started hot, I guess you could say hot, better than some people thought they were going to perform. When they came into this season, maybe through the first quarter of the season, I kind of got the vibe like Aaron may be back. I don't know how you guys feel about that. So maybe he will come back next year, but nonetheless, like Deadfish is saying, this might be the last time he travels to Chicago. And it's a fun rivalry there. I love how he prods just enough, but still gives a little bit of credit to the Bears, their fan base, all that, and how special it is to play in Chicago and all that. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what Aaron can do there against his old rival, old NFC North rival in the Chicago Bears. Packer fan Nick in the chat says, if they win a playoff game, I think he'll be back. That's a great point. Great point, Nick. United Bates says, Perk Rodgers lights it up. Let's go. I think we've actually got the sound bot from that, if I remember.
My knee.
You know, with the knee, Perk Rodgers game, this is going to be the wrist Perk Rodgers game. What we don't need him out there doing, Bates, is coming into the huddle like this.
I'm not going to lie. I was faded. I ain't going to lie. I was faded. Like,
so hopefully he's got everything buttoned up there and he can come in and play a hell of a game against the Chicago Bears. So let's look at some of the numbers here. All right. The point spread currently for the Steelers and the Bears. The Bears are 2.5-point favorites. Now they're at home, right? Anywhere from 1.5 to 3 points is typically what you catch at home. So if that were the case, you'd say, let's say it's the old school 3 points, right? Okay. You automatically get 3 points for playing at home, and then you're just 2.5-point favorites. That would suggest maybe the Steelers are half-point favorites. Now, if you subscribe to the no, it's changed to 1.5. It's no longer 3 points. If you go that route, then you would say, okay, the Bears are basically 1-point favorites here when you kind of remove the differential. However, when we're talking about the money, 77% of the money is on the Steelers plus 2.5. All right, 63% of the tickets are on that bet. And then the money line just winning outright, you've got 51% of the money is on the Steelers to win, but 58% of the slips are on the Bears. That tells me you got a whole bunch of people not betting a whole lot of money, probably some Bears fans putting a little money on their hometown crowd. Listen, we can't hate them for that, right? So, again, that's kind of how that shakes out. When you look at the PFF projection, they've got it at 2.4 points. So that would suggest it's a little bit closer than that 2.5, obviously. Let's look at the overall rankings here according to Team Metrics on PFF's website. Yeah, she's seen the house, Aaron. I got to hit this real quick. Aaron said, Clayton, did Mandy see the new house? He was showing me the Titletown condos over there overlooking the field at Titletown right next to Lambeau Field, $1.7 million. I said, Aaron, get out of here with that crap. All right, I don't need you sharing that with Mandy. We've looked at those before, not that we were interested in buying, but I think when they first went on sale, there were some that were like $700,000. And she was like, Clayton, if we shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you try to justify us spending that much money on a home in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I'm looking at the 2 to 250 range. I don't know, about a half a mile from Lambeau. That's close enough for me, right? So yeah, you make sure you don't bring that up again, Aaron. I don't appreciate that. So you trying to tap into my bottom line there. But all right, overall ranking. Pittsburgh is ranked 19th. The Bears are 16th. All right, let's switch over to defense. Defensively, the Pittsburgh Steelers are ranked 14th. The Chicago Bears are ranked 15th. This is according to the PFF metrics, okay? And we can cross-check with some of our PTA power ranking, spreadsheet, I guess you could say, and see how we feel there. Offensively, they've got the Bears 9th and the Steelers 20th, okay? So when you kind of look at those numbers, and it suggests, okay, Steelers have a slightly, and I mean slightly better defense. The Bears have the much better offense. I kind of agree with that, man. When you look at points per play, and I won't put it on the screen, I'll just read it off to you guys. When it comes to overall power ranking, I've got Chicago in the 15th spot, all right? However, when you look at offensive points per play, they're 12th, and offensive yards per play, they're 8th. They got a pretty good running attack, and the big thing is they protect the football and they take the ball away. Their turnover differential, they are first in the National Football League in turnover differential. So that's something to kind of that's going to play a big role there, right? Now, when you look at the strength of schedule, the Bears have played the 29th toughest schedule, right? Although Bears fans would suggest that's not the case, we all know it's true. They're definitely in the bottom third of the league, no doubt bottom third, maybe even the bottom 3 to take it a little step further there. So strength of schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers, what they played is 26. So pretty close, right? Pretty close to each other. Average snaps, the Bears are getting 70 snaps on offense. The Steelers only getting 59. All right. Percentage of run plays. You got the Bears running the ball 40% of the time. The Steelers running it 39% of the time. So really, really close there. EPA per run, the Bears are sitting at an even 0. And the Steelers are at a negative 0.07. So the Bears have the edge in the running game. And then EPA per pass, it looks like they've got the edge there as well. Really, really close there. The Steelers coming in at 0.03 and the Bears coming in at 0.07 in EPA per pass. Now, they're showing Mason Rudolph as the starter. We know that's not going to be the case, at least everything I've heard. You guys let me know in the chat if you've heard anything different, whether or not Aaron may not be playing in this game. I'd love to know if any other information has come down the pike. Last I heard, he was planning on playing in this game. So that obviously changes a bit. I think Aaron will do a good job of protecting the football. Matter of fact, if we look at the team rankings for Pittsburgh, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers as the 10th best team in the league with an 11.7 score. Offensive points per play, they're 7th. Defensive points per play allowed, they're 10th. All right. And that's not my opinion. Those are factual stats, okay, in terms of team rankings. And then offensive yards per play, they're 19th, however. So they're not moving the ball very effectively. However, they're scoring a lot of points. Defensive yards per play allowed, they're 17th. So kind of mediocre on both of those metrics. And turnover differential, they're 5th best in the league. So what you got is two teams that are top 5 essentially, right? In protecting the football, taking the football away. The Bears are number 1 in turnover margin, and the Steelers are number 5 in that regard. We got NFW Bosco in the house with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. He says, my first game, I'm assuming I apologize. My first game at Lambeau, I'm staying at Clayton's. No, you ain't, sir. No, you ain't. All right. Now, listen, it's a dream of mine, though. Long-term goal. I've told everybody this on the show before. Man, I'd love to get to the point where I could buy tickets for a luxury box at Lambeau Field. It'd be a season ticket holder in that regard, one of the fat cats, and just give out 10 random tickets to viewers each week, right? And hey, come watch the game with us type thing. I'm not a huge fan of like Barstool Sports, probably because my biggest the biggest saturation I've gotten from Barstool Sports is Big Cat and the Bears ones, because I love going on there and just watching their heartbreak every year, watching the live streams and stuff. But I got to say, I do admire them all kind of getting together, hanging out, watching a ball game together like that. Imagine being able to do that at Lambeau Field in the box, right? Or whatever your favorite stadium is. If there's fans from other NFC North teams in here, right? Same type thing. I think that would be absolutely awesome. But yeah, you probably won't want to stay in the house. I'm going to end up getting there, Bosco. I appreciate the super chat, sir. Appreciate it. Now, maybe we can get Aaron to buy one. Our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, get one of those townhouses, one of those condominiums right next to Lambeau. We'll go over and crash on his couch. How's that feel, Aaron? Huh? See what you did here? Been holding LOL. We are all staying at Clayton, so you ain't, sir. Okay, so it's I love the houses too, right there next to Lambeau, man. I know they're overpriced, but are they really overpriced? I mean, if you had the extra money, wouldn't you pay for it to live right across the street from Lambeau Field? It'd be awesome, man. Be absolutely awesome. So again, that's kind of how the Steelers and the Bears shake out here. I think it's going to come down to who protects the football better. Now, the thing about the Bears is they're taking the ball away way more often than they're giving the ball away. That's why their turnover differential is that way, right? So they're finally facing a team this week that protects the football really, really well. So if it comes down to who protects the football the best, I kind of look at matchups too individually. Let me ask you guys this: who's the better head coach? And I don't really have any. I haven't really put any thought into this. I look at several different matchups when I'm trying to break down who has the actual advantage in games. I'm pretty good at getting the score fairly close to what I think it will be. But Pittsburgh Steelers, you got Mike Tomlin, Super Bowl winning coach, but boy, he hasn't had any postseason success in a very, very, very long time. You got Ben Johnson, the up-and-comer. Listen, I got to tip my cap. I think he's done a hell of a job taking that offense, turning it into essentially a top 10 offense. He's right there around it. If he's not top 10, you got to at least put him in the top 15, maybe top 12, right? Some would say it's top 5. I'm not quite there. I think top 10, you're being respectful either way. So which coach has the advantage there? Which one? And when you ask that question, try to remove the bias, the how you see that coach because you don't like that he did this or he coaches that team. If you had one game to win, and you had to pick between those two coaches, who would it be? Right? That's kind of how I look at that. That's tough. Ben Johnson, the hot up-and-coming coach, right? And then you got Mike Tomlin, the grizzled veteran, right? But hasn't had a whole lot of success in quite some time in terms of getting to the postseason and winning ball games. So when you look at that, it's almost like a push for me between those two coaches. So now you go to the quarterback matchup. Who would you rather have, Caleb Williams or Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is hurt. He's going to be looking to not take hits with that wrist. We all know that, right? So if that's the case, the ball may come out a little earlier than he wants it to. But if I had to pick between those two quarterbacks, you remove Caleb Williams' scrambling ability, and I'm telling you, he is a bottom third quarterback in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers, I got to give Aaron Rodgers the slide edge there, so I'll take Aaron. Now let's talk pass rush. Who has the better pass rushers, all right? Now you got these, I think they've still got Sweat, right, that plays for the Chicago Bears, if I remember correctly. Let's just take a quick look here at the lineup. Let me switch over. Bang. Yeah, so they got Montez Sweat grading out of 70.5. So that's their best edge rusher, I imagine. Let's go from their base to nickel just to make sure. Yep. So Montez Sweat is their best edge rusher. Which one would you rather have in terms of rushing the edge, Montez Sweat or TJ Watt? I think we all know the answer there, right? We're probably going TJ Watt. So now it comes down to protecting the quarterback on the tackle position, another tier 1 position of importance. So we said I said, not you guys, I said the coach is a push, right? I give the slot edge to Aaron at quarterback. We give the edge at edge defender and pass rushing to TJ Watt and the Steelers. Now let's look at the pass protection, right? So on Pittsburgh's side, they got I think that's Broderick Jones, I believe. Jones at left tackle, 56.1. Fautanu at right tackle, 63.9. Okay, so both, let's say it averages out to low 60s there, right? And now let's switch over and just look at how the edge defenders look over here. So you got Benedette, if I'm saying that right, 56.4. And then they got, I think is that Darnell Wright? Yeah, Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, right down the road here, 10th overall pick, 77.4. Judging by PFF, you'd have to give their tackles the slide edge there. And by the way, you guys remember when we were talking in the offseason about free agency? We had 2 or 3 free agents that we liked, we wasn't crazy about, but the one that we had at the top of the list was Drew Dahlman at center. This one hurts, boys. Can you imagine if we didn't sign Aaron Banks and you signed Drew Dahlman? He's grading out at 82.3. So his last 3 years, 82, 78, 82. Imagine him playing center for the Green Bay Packers. If Elton Jenkins was still healthy, him at left guard, right? Our offensive line looks a lot better. So I really do that. I'm not very critical of Goody often, but that's one I really wish they would have signed. But nonetheless, when you look at the offensive line, you give the edge, in my opinion, at the tackle position to the Chicago Bears. So again, coaches push. You've got the quarterback matchup slightly in favor of the Steelers. Edge rusher slightly in favor of the Steelers, along with Cam Hayward. We got to mention that. He's the top graded defensive tackle right now, according to PFF. He's just still a stud, right? So he'll help with the pass rush as well. And then you give the slot edge to offensive tackle play to the Bears. So what is that? 3 out of 4 go to the Steelers. Going to be a top one. I'd have the Steelers winning maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna put next to the Steelers, I'm gonna say they win by 4 points. All right. So that's my prediction there. Not going to give an actual prediction of the score. I'm going to say the Steelers win by roughly 4 points. That's how I would handicap that game if it were me. All right. So that is a little preview on the Steelers and the Steelers and the Bears. So Coach Lindstedt, Clayton, you called this. Yeah. And I don't like to say, I told you so. I'm wrong all the time, man. I feel like if you're going to say I got that one right, then you damn sure better mention the ones you get wrong, right? And I get a bunch wrong. But that was one that I felt like we called it, Coach. We were all kind of talking about that, like, man, that would be, if it's a need, you let Josh Myers walk in free agency, pick up Drew Dowman. And I always say that I feel like center is a position of tier 2 importance, right? I'll talk about tackles and quarterback being tier 1, center tier 2. That's all on offense. I don't have wide receivers as tier 2, tight ends as tier 2. It's center, tackles, and quarterback. That's where you should really put your focal point in your offense and then build everything around that. And it's obvious the Packers don't see it that way, right? Because they just thought, or maybe they thought Elton was going to be much better at center. That's unfair for me to say, right? If they thought, and listen, I'll be honest with you too. Here's one I got wrong, Coach. I thought Elton was going to improve tremendously moving to center, and I feel comfortable saying that didn't happen. So probably won't be here next year. So Coach Lynn says Banks is trending in the right direction, though, last 2 games. Very good point. But again, I just don't see guard as important as center. And, the rest of the NFL disagrees with that because obviously GMs spend way more money on guards than they do centers typically, right? Unless it's like a top center, like a Drew Dahlman, our boy out there in Kansas City. I can't think of his name now, the one that got away from the Packers. But so anyway, I would give the Steelers the edge there. Roughly 4-point edge is what I'm thinking here. That doesn't mean that they're going to go out and win that ball game, right? It just simply means that that's kind of how I see the matchups right now. And I want to know what you guys think. If you're watching this video back later, let me know in the comments. How do you feel about the Steelers at the Bears? And you guys comment quick, too, when you watch this video tonight, because obviously the game's going to be kicking off at 12 Central tomorrow. And it is going to be, just so you know, on CBS. The forecast is 41 degrees and scattered clouds. So it's going to be a little chilly out there in Chicago. Probably be a little breeze. They don't have that mentioned. But, yeah, I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments. How do you see that game? Are you going with the Steelers or the Bears? Let us know. And if you like this type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. So I'm going to kick that one out.